Former international football star George Weah is sworn in as president of Liberia. President Donald Trump and lawmakers point fingers as the U.S. government shutdown enters its third day. And Kim and Kanye reveal their newborn baby daughter's name. And in Kim Ye's style, it's certainly outside the box.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. At least 6 people were killed as violence erupted in the Democratic Republic of Congo on Sunday. Authorities there are cracking down on banned protests against President Joseph Kabila. Witnesses say security forces fired live rounds and tear gas in the capital Kinshasa to disperse demonstrators who are demanding an end to Kabila's 17-year rule. The Catholic Church had called for rallies around the country despite the government's ban on all demonstrations. The ban came after anti-Kabila protests in September 2016 turned violent. According to the UN peacekeeping mission, MINUSCO, 33 people were injured on Sunday and dozens more arrested. Kabila's constitutional term ended in December 2016, but he stayed on. Under an agreement brokered by the Catholic Church, he was allowed to stay in office provided new elections were held in 2017, and that didn't happen. DRC authorities say a vote would be held at the end of this year. Now to West Africa, it was a day few Liberians will never forget. Former international football star George Weah sworn in as the president of Liberia. There were scenes of joy and optimism among the crowds at Samuel Canyon Dore Stadium near the capital of Monrovia as the country marked the first peaceful democratic transition since 1944. Weah began his presidency with a rousing call to all Liberians, promising to do more than his share to advance the country. Weah also used his inaugural speech to praise Liberia's strong ties with countries like the United States and China. He stressed the importance of the two world powers in helping Liberia reach its full potential. Weah takes over from Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who spent 12 years steering the West African nation away from the trauma of civil war. Now, for more perspective on President Weah, I'm joined by Bolger Johnson. He's the vice chairman for the Liberty Party of Liberia, the USA East Coast chapter. Mr. Johnson, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Vincent.
We have to begin with the fact that many people look at George Weah and say, this guy has no experience. He's never been known to run any governmental institution or any business. What do you tell them?
I want to say thanks for having me on your program, Vincent. Today is indeed a great day in Liberia. We are all proud, we are all excited to be a Liberian. And I think Mr. Weah brings to this country a skill of leadership. Being a football player transforming to a president is indeed a new day in Africa. And I think if he surrounds himself with the caliber of people, I think he can make a huge difference. He may not have the experience, but I think he has the willpower to change Liberia for the better.
Mm-hmm. Now, he has the willpower, but let's spell out first, what are some of the challenges he may have to deal with immediately?
The first thing Mr. Weah have to do is the idea of creating jobs. We have a huge young population of young people. Mr. Weah will have to manage their expectations. Mr. Weah will have to create jobs for those people. Because we have a population of between the age of 22 to 30 years old. About 60% of them are all young people that voted Mr. Weah into office. So their expectation in terms of jobs, in terms of building schools, building hospital infrastructure to improve their lives so they can have a better life. They have hopes.
Now, the outgoing President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came in with experience, with education, and she says she's done quite a lot for Liberia. What is it in your assessment that she failed to do in 12 years that George Weah can do differently?
I think the difference between the two leadership, Mr. Sirleaf have the education, she have the experience. But I think what she was lacking is in terms of being able to deliver to Liberian people. The people felt that they were left out. The people felt that it wasn't included in whatever leadership Mr. Sirleaf had. After 12 years, they realized that their life would stay the same. They realized that the state didn't have potable drinking water, they didn't have better healthcare system, they didn't have better schools. And that's the reason why they voted Mr. Weah. The young people felt that we need somebody that look like us, that think like us, that will maybe become inclusive to help being part of the process.
Yeah, if you were to give some advice to President Weah, we know that many of them come in with a lot of enthusiasm, with amazing promises, but it looks like the system transforms them, it changes them, or perhaps they realize they just cannot accomplish what they promised. What is it that he could do to be different, to be not a disappointment like many other presidents have become?
One thing Mr. Weah said within his speech, he said he will fight corruption. Liberia is open for business. He's going to go ahead on corrupt officials. He's going to bring in transparency in government.
But that's what they all say. And then they come in and realize that some of these things have become institutionalized. Some of them is because of loopholes in the laws of the land, in the Constitution. How do you become different? If you ask Ellen Johnson, she'll tell you she's fighting corruption.
I think that's a very good question. But I think Mr. Weah have said in his remarks and speech that in his leadership, he's going to make sure Liberia is very transparent. He's going to bring in investors. He's going to encourage young people to go back to school. He's going to fight corruption. So we'll have to be very optimistic that Mr. Weah will come to power and he will do what he said he would do. We are not going to criticize him. We're going to catalog his mistakes. We're going to see how we can work with him to make Liberia a better country.
Yeah. In terms of the Constitution of Liberia, is there any part of that you think, if you have the means, if you could personally, would advise that it's changed to make it easier to run the country in a more effective way?
I think the most important thing that needs to change is just the tenure of the presidency. Yeah. From 6 years, you should make it 4 years, so that you have the time frame of 8 years in leadership. The next person can come and have the smooth transition of power to make our country a better place. But in all sincerity, I think Mr. Weah have the backing of both the Senate and the House. Members now, the Speaker of the House is from his party, CDC. So we are hoping that they all can work together to move his agenda forward. His agenda on building the country, building roads, building schools, and improving the infrastructure of our country.
I've asked before this question. Some see the Vice President, of course, also connected to the former leader of Liberia. What do you think? Does that kind of create a cloud around the presidency?
I don't think
Charles Taylor's shadow behind there.
I understand that's a major factor in international circles as it relates to Joel Taylor Howard being Mr. Weah vice president. But I think she's the ex-wife of Mr. Taylor. She's an individual. She has her own personality, and they have to merge with Mr. Taylor party so they will have the victory they have.
Yes.
But I don't think it's a major problem.
Well, and we'll continue watching to see what happens. We appreciate your perspectives, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Yes. Well, Mr. Bolger Johnson is Vice Chairman for Liberty Party of Liberia, the USA East Coast chapter. Now to East Africa, Ethiopia is rejecting Egypt's call for the World Bank to arbitrate a dispute over the hydroelectric dam that Addis Ababa is building along its share of the Nile. The two countries are at odds over the construction of the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. Now, the dam will be Africa's biggest hydroelectric plant. The $5 billion dam is about 63% complete. When finished, it will generate 6,400 megawatts, more than doubling Ethiopia's current production of electricity, rather megawatts, of 4,000 right now. Now, the dam will also help spare Ethiopia from drought and famine, but Egypt fears the project would restrict waters flowing down from Ethiopia's highlands and through the deserts of Sudan to its fields and reservoirs. Ethiopia maintains that the dam's construction will not reduce Egypt's share of the river's water, insisting the dam is needed for developing, as 60 million Ethiopians don't have access to electricity. Now, down south, Malawi is once again grappling with an invasion of 4 army worms, which ravaged crops around across parts of Africa in 2016 and 2017 and aggravated food insecurity. Amid a shortage of pesticides in Malawi, some farmers are turning to homemade concoctions. Lamek Messina reports from one of the hardest hit areas, the Mulanje district in southern Malawi.
4 army worms in Malawi have yet again shattered the hopes of Samson Muloye.
Last year, the army worms affected over half of my field. But this year, The whole field has been attacked, and this will drastically reduce my yields. Last year I was able to harvest 20 bags of maize. I don't expect this to happen this year.
The Minister of Agriculture says more than 200,000 hectares of sorghum, millet and maize have been affected in 22 of Malawi's 28 districts. The country is expected to lose about 30% of crops without rapid intervention. That's devastating for small-scale farmers. Pesticides that the government is distributing for free to farmers are in short supply.
They are not enough because we have received 250 bottles, which is each bottle is 200 ml, and we have managed to demonstrate, and they are not enough to cater all the farmers which have been affected by the fall armyworm.
This has forced farmers who cannot afford to purchase pesticides to get creative.
When I applied the pesticide I received from the government, the pests did not die instantly, and it required us to reapply the pesticides to wipe it out completely. But when I first tried applying a concoction of pepper, after inspection later in the afternoon, I found that all the fall armyworms have died.
Some farmers are killing the fall armyworms with powdered soap mixed with salt. Others are dissolving fertilizers with water and then apply the solution to the affected maize crop. Some desperate farmers are just killing the pests physically. Agriculture authorities caution that homemade concoctions are not scientifically approved.
We are not recommending the traditional methods, but because the farmers have discovered this method on their own, we cannot discourage them. And the farmers themselves, they are saying that it is working, so we cannot discourage them.
Meanwhile, researchers in Malawi are experimenting with several new pesticides they have found to be effective in combating the worms. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization says it is working to develop recommendations for farmers, including pesticides that are effective but also safe for humans and the environment. For now, these farmers do what they can. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Mulanje, Malawi.
Well, young Rwandan bloggers and filmmakers are working to reshape the narrative about their country. They want to move away from stories of the 1994 genocide and its aftermath. They want to talk about their generation and what is now one of Africa's fastest growing economies. Chika Odo reports from Kigali.
Gloria Iribagiza is at it again, banging out another post for her blog.
When you go and Google search, if you're out of the country, you'll see just genocide. But yet there's so much development happening here. The youth are part of a whole generation of vibrant people who are telling stories in different ways. Most of my stories that I write are more about social change and different ways in which that can impact the lives of people.
The 1994 genocide killed an estimated 800,000 people and left scars on Rwanda that last to this day. But Gloria and a group of local writers and filmmakers want to tell a different story. For Gloria, that means focusing on development issues and women and girls achieving their goals. Gloria says she feels free to go out, report, and write stories. But rights groups do continue to express concern about restrictions to free speech and political dissent in Rwanda. Other local content creators VOA spoke to declined to be interviewed on the topic. Gloria is out to meet with some colleagues at a trendy cafe. Maggie Mutesi is a journalist. Victor Kagimba is a spoken word artist. Raymond Kalionga is a 3D animator, and he creates content like this.
Right now, we try to get children who are writing stories and getting their stories out there in a moving picture.
The content is produced locally. Independent films that explore complex issues like identity and gender are also gaining attention. 25-year-old Filbert Mbabazi studied filmmaking in Europe and has returned to Rwanda to pursue his dreams.
The narrative that I want to change is just is to tell our own stories, like to show our own complexities. Because I think like most of the stuff we see, especially in cinema or video, there's no complexity in terms of where you want to when you're showing people. And I think as an African, as a Rwandese, my biggest struggle is to just be able to communicate the word that I'm just another human being. Because there's no Rwandese narrative or African narrative. It's just a personal narrative from every individual.
These are the type of stories to expect from this group. Not what was, but what is and what will be. Chika Odua for VOA News, Kigali, Rwanda.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now coming up, Donald Trump and members of Congress blame one another for the government shutdown. Is there any end in sight? Stay with us.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen.
I feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life, or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
Well, 78 former U.S. ambassadors to 48 African countries have sent a letter to President Donald Trump asking him to reassess his views on Africa and its citizens. Now, the letter follows President Trump's alleged derogatory remarks about Africa and Haiti during a meeting with lawmakers over America's immigration policy. Former U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, John Campbell, spoke to VOA's Cindy Sain about the efforts to reassure Africans about America's commitment to the region.
Apology! Apology! Anger at President Donald Trump's alleged comments about Africans and Haitians from 1 week ago is not dissipating, says former U.S. Ambassador John Campbell.
Seems to be strongest in countries that are on a broadly democratic trajectory. Nigeria, South Africa, Senegal, Botswana.
Campbell said he and the other signatories to the protest letter are less worried about long-term damage to America's reputation among African leaders than he is among members of the general public, 1.2 billion people in 54 countries.
There has always been, however, a kind of low-level concern about the persistence of American racism. And alas, the president's most unfortunate comments seem to lend credence to that concern.
Campbell said he feels Trump should retract the alleged remark and apologize, adding that Africans tend to be very forgiving. The State Department says ties to the continent go much deeper than this current incident.
Our relationship with African nations is much broader than any one alleged comment that was made. I think the people on the ground that we work with in the African nations know very well of our commitment here at the State Department and the United States government, that we have a commitment and a value we value those relationships.
But African Union Ambassador Arikana Chihambori-Kwao has a word of caution.
We must engage from a point of equality where we can mutually benefit from the relationship without one feeling superior to the other. And unless we can operate from that point of view, the new African is not going to put up with that. And that's something I'm going to do my best to impress to the U.S. government, that we can no longer play this game with the old strategies.
Chihambori-Kwao says if Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visits Africa soon as planned, he will be welcomed with open arms. Cindy Sain, VOA News, the State Department.
Well, the U.S. Senate will vote on Monday in Washington, D.C. on a bill to reopen the federal government through February the 8th. Now, but there is no guarantee that bill will pass. The debate over immigration policy has been caught up in negotiations to fund the U.S. government. The sticking point? Protections for undocumented immigrants who were brought to America as children. VOA Senate correspondent Mike Bowman has more.
The shutdown began early Saturday, but is being felt more keenly as of today, when federal offices across the nation that would normally open for business remain closed.
Makes you shake your head. Who comes up with ideas like this?
And this body can't even agree to pay our troops. That's how dysfunctional we have become.
A fundamental impasse remains on the timing and substance of immigration reform, including the fate of hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants brought to America as children.
That's why in a recent survey, a majority said keeping the government open is a higher priority than shutting down the government over the issue of illegal immigration.
The Republican leader would have you believe we Democrats forced the shutdown. He first forgets that several members of his own party voted against the CR. Are they holding the government hostage over illegal immigration? Nope, doesn't seem that way.
President Donald Trump is ratcheting up pressure on Twitter, writing that Democrats, quote, just want illegal immigrants to pour into our nation unchecked. Meanwhile, a new Trump-approved ad aims to rally the president's core supporters and tar Democrats with an explosive assertion.
President Trump is right. Build the wall. Deport criminals. Stop illegal immigration now. Democrats who stand in our way will be complicit in every murder committed by illegal immigrants.
Democrats say they will not be baited by false attacks, adding that the Senate's Democratic leader agreed to border wall funding in direct negotiations with Trump last week, but the White House rejected the deal.
Chuck Schumer went down there in good faith and made what I considered a significant concession to this president for this quixotic quest he has for this wall on the border of our country with Mexico. And despite that effort, 2 hours later, the president's people called back and said it's over.
Only essential government services are continuing during the funding lapse, and many federal workers have been idled. A 16-day shutdown in 2013 cost the U.S. economy an estimated $24 billion. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West named their newborn daughter after America's third largest city. We'll be right back.
In Liberia, George Weah takes the oath of office to become the country's newest president, replacing Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, at least 5 people are dead and dozens wounded after police dispersed anti-government protests nationwide. In South Africa, testimony begins in life accidemony arbitration hearings where 143 patients died under state care. In Zimbabwe, MDC opposition party president Nelson Chamisa wants UN officials to watch over the country's upcoming elections. Finally, the Ghana Rugby Union starts youth programs to reach goal of 1,500 players nationwide in 120 schools by 2020.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, the stars brought their Fashion A game to the 2018 Screen Actors Guild Awards on Sunday night. Some dressed all in black and sported pins in support of the Time's Up initiative, an action plan and legal defense fund that has raised millions to support the victims of sexual harassment and assault. Earlier this month, at the Golden Globes, actors and actresses almost universally blacked out the awards show. This time around, most opted for brighter shades, bringing some color to the red carpet before the ceremony officially kicked off. Well, next up, while U.S. President Donald Trump has been outspoken on a number of issues, his wife, Melania, remains somewhat of a mystery. In trying to decipher the clues, some fashion experts say we should look at our sense of style. Now, the point of agreement, the First Lady knows who she is and that she has good taste. It is very Upper East Side of New York City, very expensive designer brands. And these are not just designer brands that the regular person might find expensive. Her coats generally cost at least $1,500. Her shoes generally cost at least $700 compared to our other recent First Ladies. Melania Trump sizes up favorably against the previous Queen of White House, chic. That's Jackie Kennedy. Well, and finally, Kim and Kanye have finally announced their real newborn daughter's name. It's Chicago, as in the Midwestern American city where Kanye was raised. Kim made the announcement on her app without explanation. Chicago was born via surrogate. The rapper and the reality star chose to use a gestational carrier after Kim suffered pregnancy complications with her 2 older children. She says her doctors told her it wasn't safe for her to carry another baby. And that's what's trending, and that's our show for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Today's episode won't cost you anything.
Freebie.
Let's see what this one is about.
Anna, I love my job.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
I get so many freebies from the bands I write about. CDs, t-shirts, water bottles, even tickets to see them perform.
Wow. The only freebie I ever got from my